To everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under the heaven. A time to be born, and a time to die. A time to plant, and a time to pluck up that which is planted. A time to kill, and a time to heal. A time to break down, and a time to build up. A time to weep, and a time to laugh. A time to mourn, and a time to dance. A time to cast away stones, and a time to gather stones together. A time to embrace, and a time to refrain from embracing. A time to get, and a time to lose. A time to keep, and a time to cast away. A time to rend, and a time to sow. A time to keep silent, and a time to speak. A time to love, and a time to hate. A time of war, and a time of peace. Hello, I'm Joe Roberts, and this is the Mayfield Friday Time. I've been reading from Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verses 1 through 8.
Well, I want to say hello again. This is the Mayfield Friday Time. I'm your host, Joe Roberts, and my co-host, Pastor Bernie Dixon, is also with us tonight. And also a special guest we have, who is part of our International Missionary Baptist Ministries, Brother Bible teacher John Scott Ray. He's with us once more. I ask that you do be in prayer for him and his wife. They will be traveling back to Florida beginning early tomorrow morning. And it's been just an excellent time of having them with us. So I trust that he's going to be making some comments as we go along, I'm sure. This is actually a special broadcast this evening. We have decided that this special broadcast is going to be on the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, and our Bill of Rights. Our theme for this whole program is time. And if there ever was a time in the history of our country, it is now that we need to know these things that we're going to be talking about this evening. And I want to start off, and then I'm going to turn it off to our co-host, Pastor Dixon. I want to read the first two paragraphs of the Declaration of Independence. When, in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with one another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by the Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That, to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That, whenever any form of government becomes destructive to these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute a new government, laying its foundation upon such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to effect their safety and happiness. I want to turn it over to our co-host now, Pastor Dixon, and you take the lead here, brother.
Oh, I'm excited about this.
Yeah. Before you should have seen him when he first came in. I mean, he was he couldn't even touch the ground. Even with that broken foot of his, he was still walking on cloud nine, I would say. But I want you to know, all three of us this evening are military veterans.
Yes.
So we're a little biased, but in a good way.
Yes, yes.
When we were sworn into the military, each one of us took an oath,
Yep.
right?
Absolutely.
And I want to point out that this oath has never been taken away from us.
No.
No.
Doesn't
It will
stop
follow
you.
our lives.
Exactly.
So I was in the Air Force. Brother Bernie was in the Coast Guard.
And the
also-
Army.
And the Army.
Mhm.
You cut me off there. I was getting to the Army.
My bad.
And
Jocularity.
then, and then Brother Scott was in the Navy. So we know what that oath we took many years ago.
You'll just
And
need
it's
the
never-
Marines. That's all you need to be fully.
So what?
All you needed was the Marines to have all the branches here.
That's correct. Yep. Sorry, we don't have anybody from Marines here, but anyway,
we got a Marine wannabe back there.
his head's on a swivel going back and forth. I do want to acknowledge our technician and our producer of the Mayfield Friday Time, my son Jamie Roberts. And he's not in the picture, but he is certainly operating things and telling us, all right, turn your microphones off, scoot over, I can't see you, and all this kind of thing. So that's what
Yeah,
happens when you have
exactly.
somebody else as a producer.
Oh, and I'm glad he's back. I am so glad he's back.
Yeah. He doesn't like me operating things back there. I don't get it all done the way I'm supposed
Exactly.
to.
See, the reason we're sitting here, and here's Brother Joe, and we got all three of us here, makes me feel like an Oreo cookie. The best part's in the middle.
Yeah.
So, but anyway.
And humble.
All right. Well, let's get down to business. Brother Bernie, lead us off here, brother.
It's very interesting. Again, I was just talking to these two brethren. That when we went into the military, too often we make these promises of supporting something we really don't understand what we're supporting. The Declaration of Independence. I will say this, that there are 4 documents that are most important, and they are the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, the Declaration of Independence, and the Bible.
Amen.
And if we don't understand those 4 documents, we come up with our own ideas. In fact, I asked Brother Joe, and I got to eat it. Is that better? Thank you, brother. I just don't want to get the cooties on there. But anyway.
He's afraid of the microphone. That's what the problem
Oh,
is.
okay. There you go. But I don't know how many people are aware that there are actually 4 unalienable principles that are necessary for freedom anywhere in the world. And that's in the Declaration of Independence. And the very first part, the 4 principles are the rights that we have come from God. Mm-hmm. That's the first thing. Number 2 is the purpose of civil government is to secure those rights. The third principle is the power of civil government that's given by the consent of the governed, and the governed, what we deal with, are the people. But they are governed, and each whom is entitled to rule. The fourth one is the right to govern is fortified by a tyrant to lower civil magistrates in order to restore the rule of law. That's very interesting. The more I found out about this, the more precious the flag became. The more I began to study this, the more precious church became, because the principles that we stand on, the Constitution, these three documents, when you deal with that, then it shows how really blessed we are to be able to worship freely.
Right.
And I'm so glad we don't have a tyrant. But we're going to get right into the meat of the whole crux of what we're dealing with. I want to say this, that Abraham Lincoln said this, and we'll get the Declaration of Independence, but these are some important things. Abraham Lincoln said this. He said, "Don't interfere with anything in the Constitution. That must be maintained, for it is the only safeguard of our liberties, and not to the Democrats alone do I make this appeal, but to all who love these great and true principles." Abraham Lincoln said that. And so we're going to start with, before we get into the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, and of course we need to understand that. Thank you, brother. We need to understand that when we deal with the Bill of Rights, those are amendments to the Constitution.
Right.
We'll get to that in just a little bit. I will say this, and I came in with my sidearm. There are two symbols of our freedom, and I'm going to go ahead and say it. One is the American flag, but the other people don't understand is the other symbol of freedom is our sidearms that we can carry.
Right.
And I'll get into that. Why is that a symbol of freedom? We'll get into that, brother. But the Declaration of Independence, July 4, 1776. We celebrate July the 4th. But we need to understand some things in here. I like this. When in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people. There's a biblical principle in there.
Yes, there is.
Yeah, I told
You're
Brother
going to
Joe.
explain it to us too, aren't you?
Exactly. There's a biblical principle in there, and you might say, where is that? In the motto, E pluribus unum, and everybody should know that. If you don't, you ought to know that. That's from many, one. In the Bible, we find where Paul talked about the church as a body with many members constitute one body.
Right.
That's a biblical principle.
Yes, it is.
Man, where people come from different areas, whether it was China or Japan or Mexico or India, wherever it may be, they come for a principle, and they come to what was the word for it? They come to give something.
Right.
For the betterment of the country. The purpose of members when they come in to join a New Testament church, each member is important for the building up of that church. That's a biblical principle. Whether people don't want the Bible or not, that's not the issue. The issue is whether it was a Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, all of them have a biblical foundation. Mm-hmm. We need to understand that. But he goes this. He said, when it's necessary, it's sometimes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with one another, to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which laws of nature and nature's God, uppercase G-O-D.
That's right.
There it
Yes.
is right here. Nature's God. He's the one who created all things. That's a biblical principle, brother. We're
Amen.
getting more and more about the Bible. And as a footnote, our founding fathers had a deep respect for that wonderful book.
Even Benjamin Franklin,
Yes.
he never claimed to be a Christian,
Exactly.
but he respected the fact that our nation had to be founded on biblical principles.
Absolutely.
And he stood up for that.
Absolutely. So we get things backwards. I'm excited that I found this out. And I'm going to tell you, the more I know about this, the more respect I have for different people, different groups. And I will say this, it was never intended, and I said this the last message, people may get upset with me, but when we start this idea of Afro-American, Indian American, Black America, White American, all these say what?
All these hyphen Americans.
These hyphenated names, we're actually separating. We're not African American. We're not Black American. No White American. We are Americans,
Right.
and that's what it's about.
That's right.
But Benjamin Franklin, when you mention Benjamin Franklin, boy, I'm getting excited about this. But Benjamin Franklin said this: in free governments, the rulers are the servants, and the people their superiors and sovereigns.
Well, I bet Nancy Pelosi would have a fit if she do that, didn't she?
The sad part about it, no wonder they're tearing these monuments down. Did
Yeah.
you know I heard her say she has no problem with tearing down monuments?
Oh, we all believe that.
But-
We all believe that.
Oh yeah, and here it is. No wonder people don't like Benjamin Franklin. Well, he electricity and these things right here, but the one thing we need to be mindful of, he understood, and our founding fathers understood, that those, whether it was the president, he's not the boss.
Right.
He's the servant of the people. The Congress is the servant of the people. And by the way, whether it's the president, the Senate, the Congress, they have no business reinterpreting what the Constitution or the Bill of Rights or the Declaration of Independence really meant. It's black and white. It's what it said. Now, here's a little bit about this. I know we'll get to Declaration of Independence, but this is all in this. Violations of constitutional freedoms or restrictions, if not guarded against, can slowly become acceptable through common law precedents.
Well, that's the way that when you have something different and maybe even a radical that you want to introduce to a people, you don't just come right out and give it.
No.
Instead you do a little by little. People will accept a little bit, and when they're accepting of that, you introduce just a little bit more. It's like the frog in a pan
Boiling
of
water.
water. You turn it up slowly.
Absolutely.
He never knows that he's going to boil to death until it's
Absolutely.
too late.
Absolutely. The problem we have with our government is our children, and go back, I wasn't really taught these real in-depth principles when I was in school. But if our children and our grandchildren, and if we do not understand these things we'll be discussing, then our country's doomed.
Amen.
Our country is doomed. I believe every pastor needs to understand the Constitution and Declaration of Independence. And it wouldn't be, I tell you what, I have nothing against having a copy of it on our wall. We need to. But here's, whether it's the Bible, whether it's the Declaration of Independence, whether it is the Bill of Rights or the Constitution, there's a biblical principle in that, and it goes this way. If you have misunderstandings about the words, even in the Declaration of Independence, whether it's the Constitution or the Bill of Rights or even the Bible, if you have misunderstandings about the words used to communicate specific concepts, you will not duplicate the communication exactly. You will reach your own distorted interpretation.
Right.
That's why it's important for us to know exactly what does the Bible say. Mm-hmm. It's not my job to get up there and interpret what the Bible says. It is my job as a pastor to give them what does the Bible say, not based on what I want it to say, but what does it really say?
Right.
And it's up to the people to find out what do those meaning of those words are. Now, Philip Dick, and most people have never heard of him. I didn't until this study. Man, I tell you what, I'm seeding on this. But Philip Dick said the basic tool for the manipulation of reality is a manipulation of words. I'll put this. The basic tool for bad doctrine or bad religion, different denominations, is the manipulation of the words of the Bible. Same thing with the Constitution. But he said if you can control the meaning of the words, you can control the people who use the words. If I can manipulate the words from the pulpit, I can control the people.
That's right.
If our government can manipulate what the words state in the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, they will control the people. For instance, and most people don't understand this, Congress and our government cannot stop free worship, free prayer, freedom to prayer, or even read the Bible wherever anybody wants to read it.
Oh, they try.
They can't do it.
Right.
Because in the Constitution established, and we'll get to that, that the government cannot interfere with religion. They can't
Right.
do it. But anyway, that's some there. By the way, and there's something else. For us to understand and we're getting Declaration of Independence, so I'm not bouncing. We're getting the introduction. For us to understand the Declaration of Independence, James Madison said, we don't separate the text from the historical background. If you do, you will have perverted and subverted the Constitution. You'll pervert the Bill of Rights. You'll pervert the Declaration of Independence, which can only end in a distorted, bastardized form of illegitimate government. Now
Right.
we're into the Declaration of Independence. We're going to start at the beginning. So, and you've been wondering, but I get excited about this. But I want you to notice in the second paragraph, he said, we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal.
Amen.
That's a biblical principle. And that's not just for the United States. Guess who that's the influence America should have around the world, that all men, whether he's black or white or whatever it is, they're all created equal. In fact, the Bible said that man was created in the image of God.
Amen.
1777, and when we get to the place to where we start deviating from this, individuals become property, to the place where individuals became slaves. And then they could be treated whatever they want to. But all men were created equal, that they are endowed by, I like this, their creator. And I like this, especially in America. Now get this, brother. With certain inalienable rights, and that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. In those principles, and this is a biblical, especially with America, living in America, I can, by the way, not to overbound certain laws, but in America, I can have the freedom to do whatever I want that makes me happy. I can choose to lift myself up with a better job, and as long as it does not interfere with the laws of the land.
Right.
But I am entitled by my Creator to life. He's the one He is the one who has given me the ability to be here through my mama.
He is the author. He is the author of life.
Absolutely, this is a biblical principle. Now we're getting to the into this introduction, and why do we have it? And I'll give you a footnote. At one time, America was under Great Britain.
Right.
You got to understand the background on that. But let's go a little bit further. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. The consent of the governed is the people.
Exactly.
That's where they get their. That's where they get their authority.
Mm-hmm.
They're not there. Congress is not there to put their foot down. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
They're not there to rule over us.
They're not there to rule over us. They're there to uphold the laws. Now let's go a little bit further. You like this? I like this, brother.
Amen, brother.
Man, here we go. That whenever a form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it, to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Now, it's interesting that the question is, but will the American people?
Yeah. Let me interrupt
Yes,
right
brother.
quick, because I forgot to do something.
You did.
In the introduction.
Okay.
Okay. We invite your calls.
Yes.
You can call us at 615-219-9926. That's
Amen.
615-219-9926. We welcome your call. That line is open right now. And then we also are on Facebook Live right now.
Yes.
If you want to put a note on Facebook, Jamie is monitoring all of these. and we will pick up your text. If you're watching on YouTube live, you can do the same there. So we invite you to contact us if you'd like to have a comment. We welcome comments, and if you're using Skype, if you're outside the United States, you can use Skype, and our Skype is actually IMBR. This IMBR. And Jamie is monitoring that as well. So if you want to contact us, you want to have something to say about this, well, we welcome you to do so. And I forgot to announce that at the beginning, so we'll get back to our narrative here, brother. Go ahead.
Well, hey, I'm glad you did that. But going back to this this part of the Declaration of Independence, that whenever government becomes destructive to its own means, I have the question, would our people do that? And go ahead, brother, and I'll tell you why they won't.
I started to say I don't think that they would.
You know why?
Because once they get comfortable and get adjusted, they're scared of, we're going to presume they're scared of the change.
Oh, no, it's not that. Here's the, and I looked at this. We've got a welfare system.
Yes.
And our government has been, I will put this way right here. Do you know why our young people are acting like they do? Why these protesters are doing what they do? They have no purpose. In the 60s, we began to have parents that had the mentality, I want to give my kids something I never had. And they started giving them things. So they had no purpose to work for it. So when we deal with this, most wouldn't alter our government because a new government put the right way would put them in a place where they would stop getting the freebies.
Yeah.
Get that, Brother Jamie? I'm definitely we've got to do something in this area. We've got this situation with the coronavirus, and that is taking businesses out of the picture. What we don't realize is something that I've been reading in a book, When China Rules the World. We are beginning to fall behind in China's economy. We've just been the ostrich, we're the great American thing. We keep going, we won't have 5 years. But as our economy begins to deplete, guess what China's doing?
Getting better.
And guess who, by the way, the biggest creditor, I'm talking about the one who has loaned more money. Guess
China.
That's been China.
Mm-hmm.
So more countries have been beholding to China. You know what's interesting is, biblical thing. I've been looked at this, and in Revelation it talks about the kings of the East are going to be.
Right.
You get what I'm saying?
Yes,
and
sir.
then I looked at. Just think of it. If we don't deal with this, then pretty soon they'll look at us like we look at Mexico and Venezuela. This is what and we go a little bit further. Prudence indeed will dictate that governments long established should not change for light and transient causes. And accordingly, all experience has shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing forms to which they are accustomed.
That's the problem. People are
Exactly.
afraid to get out of their comfort zone.
Absolutely. Do you know, I've seen this, brother, and I feel like one of those wrestlers. Hey, brother. I feel like old, what's his name? Oh, brother. The old, what do they call it? Hulksters. I have a bunch of Berniers,
Our producer's back there just shaking
Yeah,
his head.
that's good. But you know what's interesting about this whole thing, and I thought about it, and of course in the Declaration of Independence, it said that's why people won't change. But I've often wondered why. I had been out of the secular work sector, for over 20 years. And it hasn't been until I started doing security work where I came in contact with the secular world. And, of course, I did deliver pizzas, and that's a whole different thing. But to work to where you would come in contact with these these snowflakes or the millennials or whatever you want, and you look at them and they don't care how they work. Well, they have no reason to work. They stop and go to another job. They are happy. My brother-in-law said that he couldn't find people in the air conditioner business because they were making more money on unemployment.
I deal with snowflakes a lot.
Exactly.
My question is, if global warming is real, why do we have so many snowflakes?
That's a good question, brother.
Brother
But-
Bernie, you finally have someone a rival in the jocularity.
Yes, exactly. Thank you, brother. He's just learned from the very best.
Still humble he is.
Yeah, that's right. But I begin to see, because of the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, all these documents, I begin to understand why we're in the mess that we are. Now, he goes on further. But when a long train of abuses and absurtions pursuing invariable by the same object evidences a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for the future security. Such has been patient servants of these colonies, and now the necessity which constrains them to alter their former system of government. The history of the present King of Great Britain is a history of repeated injuries and absurtions, all having a direct object in the establishment of an absolute tyranny over these states. To prove this, let the facts be submitted to a candid world.
And then they proceed to
Tell what they were.
tell exactly what they were. And there's a big list of them.
And you notice that you use the word duty.
Yes,
It is their
exactly.
Yes.
duty.
I hear this. Brother Jamie, I've heard this. We just need to vote them out of office. I said this. I'm not going to go into detail, but when I took the oath to support the Constitution, that included the Declaration of Independence.
That's right,
That
yeah.
included the Bill of Rights.
Yes, sir.
And when I began to look at this, that I have to ask, and I would ask any American out there, would you ever vote for a person that would ever violate the Constitution? You know what you would hear from? No, I wouldn't. Problem is, they don't know what the Constitution says.
Right. And sometimes we don't know when a person has violated
Absolutely.
the Constitution unless it is brought forth or we are close to whoever it was. We're liable not to know.
Absolutely. And we go on this basis. He's a good man.
Yes.
He'll do America. But if I don't care who it is, and I would say this next election, you need to find out the background.
Amen.
If he violates this,
If they'd go back 2 elections retroactive, that'd have been a good time to look at somebody's background.
I was going to ask, can't you write in your own candidate?
You can.
See, that's what I mean. If and that still puts you in a place of voting. But if the American people, if they only knew what these documents would say, it'd make a big difference in the voting.
Amen.
It would make a big difference in
All
voting.
right, for the sake of time, let's move on to the Constitution.
Absolutely. I love it. I love it. The Constitution, just to let you know a little bit, the Constitution, and we're getting it. Boy, I tell you what. And by the way, tune in Sunday because we're going to get some more, and it's not going to be political. But my message has to do with there's a dangerous, it's dangerous for division, even in the government. But a Constitution, for some of you who don't know, a Constitution is a doctrine that outlines the basic laws, rules, and principles by which a country or organization is governed.
Did you say document or doctrine?
A document.
Document.
A
Okay.
document. This piece of paper says how our government is governed.
He
Right.
did say doctrine, though. He
Oh, did I say
say-
doctrine?
Yeah,
He
that's
did
what I
say
thought.
doctrine.
Oh, my bad. What's a good doctrine? But let me say this. You ever heard of a patriot?
No. Absolutely.
Yes.
Do you know what a true patriot is?
You're about to tell us.
I'm fixing to tell you. Thank you. I'm glad you asked. A true patriotism is the belief in the ideals that this country was founded upon and is not ignorant of them, and unthinking, endless devotion to government. that's a true patriot.
Right.
He knows what he stands for. Our patriots died. By the way, let's go a little bit. I believe part of that is even with the Constitution. When the men at the Alamo, they knew exactly why they were fighting.
Yes, they did. They
Then,
volunteered to be there,
yes,
and none of them ran.
yes, yes. See, we keep hearing this from and I'm going to say this, we keep hearing this from individuals that talk about this, that the oppression of our country. And two girls, wait a minute, had this goofy song about how they hated America and how the slaves built the America. I'm going to tell you something. You look at anybody now, are they better off than our forefathers were?
How?
I'm getting heated, brother.
How are people oppressed today?
They're not.
They're not.
They're
no,
not.
they basically changed the meaning of the word oppression to being just slightly dissatisfied with something. And you have to build on that. You spoke earlier about
Yes.
words and how words
Yes.
change their meanings.
Yes.
And that's one of them. That's one of them.
Yes. Let me say this, and it was in Richmond, Virginia, just this year. I don't like certain parts of a history. I don't like the slave history. That's part of history.
Yes.
But in Richmond, Virginia, I believe it was not Richmond. It was wherever the slave block. It was 800 pound block where they actually sold slaves.
I don't remember where that was.
And it was removed. It was a monument. And people say that needs to go. Let me just say this. That was a monument to the slaves that were individuals that had names that were actually they were bought, but every slave had a name. Every slave was an individual, and to remove that particular monument would be the same that those individuals didn't matter anymore.
Yeah.
On that very same note, I was reading today about Auschwitz.
Yes,
And
yes,
to taking the same exact thought process
yes,
that our country has right now, removing monuments,
yes,
okay, whether good or bad,
yes,
those monuments serve as a reminder of our
yes,
history,
yes,
good or bad.
yes,
And that slave block serves as a reminder of what happened,
yes,
so that we don't let it happen again.
We don't let it happen
Absolutely.
again.
Just like Auschwitz.
Yes.
Auschwitz should never be torn down. Why?
Yes, absolutely.
Because it serves as a reminder
yes,
of what tyranny is and what
Yes.
tyranny will do, and not to allow it to happen again.
Yes.
When we
Right.
remove history, we're doomed to repeat it.
absolutely.
Absolutely.
And here's something else, Brother Jamie. You brought that. I was fixing to mention Auschwitz, whether it's Auschwitz or Buchenwald or any of those. Did you know it was the Jews that wanted to keep those there as a monument to their parents, to their grandparents,
Right.
to their sisters or brothers that died there? To take that away, those people never meant anything.
Exactly. Exactly.
Daniel Webster said this: God grants liberty only to those who love it and are always ready to guard and defend it. If we don't know our natural rights, if we don't know our history, how will we guard against the infringements, even know what constitutes a violation? Thomas Jefferson said this, and this is what we're doing, brother.
We have a location for that slave block, and that was Fredericksburg, Virginia.
Thank you, Fredericksburg, Virginia.
Sister Katie Kelso
Yes.
provided that on Facebook. Thank
And
you.
you know what,
Thank you,
brother?
Katie.
I didn't like what happened, but to remove that is to remove those people that were there.
Is to say those people didn't count.
They didn't count.
But you know what? When I was in Jamaica, they had their heroes,
Yes.
and the majority of their heroes were men, were Baptist preachers and deacons,
Yes.
mind you,
Yes.
that stood up for freedom for the Jamaicans from the tyranny of Great Britain.
Absolutely.
And if you and they have a statue. I think it's in Jamie. You probably know. Correct me if I'm wrong. I believe it's located in Montego Bay, there in the center where they have the statue of the heroes.
Yes.
Of
yes.
the one deacon that they hung.
It's in the square there in Montego Bay.
Right. If the Jamaicans tore that down, that'd be denying part of their, shall we say, good history? Because these men gave their lives
Absolutely.
for freedom.
Absolutely.
And a majority of them were Baptist.
Absolutely.
Just to note the very same thing, did you see that Frederick Douglass's statue was defaced and
Yes, yes.
damaged?
Yes.
And Frederick Douglass was a former slave who was an abolitionist.
Yes, he was.
Absolutely.
His entire life was in fighting slavery.
Right.
But yet the
Absolutely.
very same individuals who say they're oppressed now deface his statue and the monument to what he did to free the slaves.
Yeah.
I
Don't know history.
Absolutely. I don't know if you're aware of this, but I saw this. The Vietnam Wall was violated. Spray
Really?
painted. Yes. Yes. Spray painted. Did you hear about that, brother? Spray painted. And these are the men that they lost their lives. So these ungrateful, immature people could burn the flag. I mean, they gave us the freedom that I can sit here and I can say what I want to say. The protesters got their freedom from the men who died.
Absolutely.
You didn't hear about that?
No, I did not.
Oh yes, yes. And
It
so
did not make mainstream news.
Say what, brother?
It did not make mainstream news. Just
Yes.
like Frederick Douglass's statue being defaced and damaged did not make mainstream
no.
news.
Guess
either.
what they're doing? I'm going to tell you something. And I don't mind saying this, but I just heard that now they're putting murals of George Floyd up and they're taking down our national monuments. They have in front of the White House on the road, big letters, Black Lives Matter.
Down in Florida, they shut down.
In Tampa.
In Orlando as well, they shut down a street down there. A minute ago, I could have told you the name of the street. $20,000 of American taxpayer money
yep.
to put a Black Lives Matter mural up.
Absolutely. And they don't understand that, and I'll say this, they don't understand this is, as I heard this is basically a catalyst, not for the black man,
Right.
No.
but it's for political reasons, to gain
Absolutely.
votes.
Yeah, absolutely. I get so frustrated sometimes and so upset, I guess, because I am a Vietnam vet,
Absolutely.
and for these things to be allowed to happen is
Preposterous doesn't cover it.
you're right.
Here,
It really doesn't.
It's sad that one day you're going to, and I'll be laying in a box, and they're going to drape our coffins with American flag as a veteran. And yet you have an individual that's caused more problems, and he got a folded flag, never was in the military.
And he was a criminal on top
He
of
was
that.
a criminal. I'm not picking. I mean, it's time that we've come to the place to where we've taken freedom of speech way out of. It's like this. I can freely say that there's fire in this building. I have a right to do that, but what damage would it do to people trying to get out?
Probably
But-
a lot.
But when we deal with the Constitution, and since we're dealing with the Constitution, we've got to add the Bill of Rights in there,
That's
the
right.
amendments. But in the Constitution, the very first, I think they call it the preamble, we, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, e pluribus unum, many people as one, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, secure blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. I'm not going to go into a whole lot, but I want to get right into the Bill of Rights because these are the amendments to this.
Absolutely.
And this is where I would say this. When you get to the Constitution, it basically says what our government can and cannot do. The amendments, which are the Bill of Rights, actually start out with 10.
Right.
So we're going to get into what do they really say. For instance, 1771, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion. Basically, the government has nothing to do with establishing religion.
Right. We
Amen.
cannot create a state church.
Exactly.
That was one of the big things in England.
That's right.
If
Yes, it
if
was.
you were over there and you weren't part of the Church of England, there are certain jobs you couldn't get. There's a lot of things. If you were in Germany and you weren't a Lutheran, there were a lot of avenues that were closed to you. Different parts of Europe had different
Absolutely.
religions, and over here, for the purposes of freedom,
Absolutely.
they decided we would not have a state religion, even though at one point they tried to establish 4 churches as a state religion, and
That's
one of
right.
those churches was
Right.
Baptist.
Absolutely.
And the Baptists were against it back
That's
then.
right.
I'm going
Right.
to give you a footnote here. I'm glad you said that. Let me put this right here. I don't know if you're aware of it, but everybody knows that America, we have America for freedom of religion.
Mm-hmm.
The ones that came over came over to escape persecution from the mother country, which basically were state churches. There was
Right.
one.
That's
they
right.
come over here. They began to establish, guess what kind of churches?
State churches.
State churches.
State churches.
Baptist forefathers came over. Guess what was happening to them? You didn't know this. They were the ones being persecuted
Yes, they were.
because they weren't Protestant. Baptists
they
were not
were.
Protestant. They come over. Guess what's happened to them? They were being tried.
Mm-hmm.
They were being jailed. They had their lands taken over. So the very ones that came over to America to escape persecution began to persecute the ones who eventually would have a seat
And
in
if
the freedom of religion.
And if you had a lenient area, sometimes the Baptists could meet twice a month
Absolutely.
for 2 hours,
Absolutely.
and that was considered being fine and being fair.
Except in the colony of Rhode Island. The
Right,
colony of Rhode
absolutely.
Island was
Colony of Rhode
Baptist.
Island, which is why, by the way, it's the smallest state because the establishment of freedom of religion
Absolutely.
by the Baptists.
Absolutely.
That's
And
right.
they didn't like it. Here's something interesting. Congress shall not establish the establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, unless you were Madeline O'Hare. 1962, Congress passed that it was illegal for them to have prayer and Bible reading in public school. Violated the First Amendment.
And you know why that it was passed? Because no one
Would say anything about it.
opposed it.
It wasn't Congress's job to say to change it. It was the job of the Congress to uphold what the amendment said.
That's right.
So all they had to do was say, "Okay, Madeline, this is what it says. This is what we'll go by." But here's something else that's interesting: that Congress and the government cannot prohibit the free exercise of religion.
Right.
By the way, as much as I despise witchcraft, as I despise some of these other things,
Like going into an airport and being assaulted with people
Exactly.
with books.
but I'm glad they have that freedom. Because
Absolutely.
if they have that freedom, I've got that freedom.
Right.
Now, or abridging the freedom of speech or the press, the right of the people peaceably to assemble.
Peaceably. What's
Peaceably
that?
assemble. They basically, the government is supposed to protect people that peaceably assemble, not to take the police away for people who want to riot.
Right.
Now,
And that's one of the things that's happened now. Those who were peaceably protesting on the death of this man, it was taken away from them by
Hijacked.
these radicals.
You know, exactly.
Just to throw a little bit more history, and I can't even say it, but I think Tiananmen Square in China.
We remember that.
Back in the 80s.
Yes.
I mean, I was very young at this time, showing my age here. But
Or
that-
lack thereof.
Or lack thereof, correct. But that started out as a peaceable protest,
Yeah.
and a very few Chinese students started attacking the government
Yes.
officials that were there and soldiers that were there.
Yes.
And that ceased to be a peaceable protest. And they weren't cracked down on until they started showing their behind, so to speak.
Yes.
And then a lot of people lost their lives.
Don't
That's when
throw
they sent the
stones-
tanks in.
Right? Don't throw stones at people with tanks.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Absolutely. But going back to the religious thing, a little bit of history. Establishment of religion sums the historical memories of religious persecution. In times past, an establishment of religion was a legal union between a state and a particular church that benefited from many privileges not granted to other churches or to those people who did not participate in a church or did not believe in accepted faith. By the way, thank goodness we have the freedom, because at one time you were by law had to be a church.
Right. Yes.
Did you know that in a lot of countries, what's been said about our country, people would disappear for saying that about another country?
That's true.
We're so blessed. But here is this. After the revolution, exclusive establishment of religions in place from the colonial period crumbled. States that never had establishments renewed their protections against them. Other states ruled that religion was to rely on private voluntary support. Nowhere in America after 1776 did an establishment of religion restrict itself to a single church or a system of public assistance of one denomination alone. Only 66 states used to continued to provide public support to religion, and they were careful to ensure their establishments included many sects. Other states such as Maryland, North Carolina, Virginia, and Georgia banned public taxing and support for religion, making it purely private and voluntary.
Amen.
There's a lot more to said about that, but I want to go into one area of why do we have the freedom to carry a sidearm?
Well, that comes in the Second Amendment.
The Second Amendment. But why? A lot of people, for instance, a lot of people will, I've got the Second Amendment, like it's on your shirt, brother. But a lot of people don't know the background of it. I'm here to tell you.
Have at it.
Thank you.
Thank you, brother. What we need to understand is to understand why we have the Second Amendment, why I carry a 9mm. I can carry a 40 caliber. I have one 357. You got a 40, or
No, I got a 38. I
30.
got a 45 right here.
45. I got a 9mm. Brother Jamie, you got your little pop gun. I'm teasing because I got a smaller pop gun.
I had to leave my 9mm at home because I didn't know about crossing state
There you
lines with
go.
it.
There you go. But along with the flag, and people don't understand this, flag is a freedom. Did you know that a handgun is a symbol of freedom?
Absolutely.
Yes.
And we'll get to that in just a minute. And by the way, when we start taking these rights away, we fail to realize what is the background with this. In Congress, Amendment number 2, a well-regulated militia be necessary to
Militia.
Militia, thank you. Militia, not militia, thank you. A well-regulated, I can say militia. No, militia. Freedom of speech.
Amen.
Militia be necessary to the security of a free state. the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Well, we don't have a militia. So what is that all about? Okay, well, I'm here to tell you what it's about. Historically speaking, Americans, especially in the area of in the 1700s, homes had weapons.
Every home.
Every home had a weapon. Number one is they lived in areas where they had to protect their families. Number two, they had to have weapons for hunting.
Unless they were vegetarians.
They
Not
were
a big thing back then.
Yeah. They used them to protect their property. I don't like the history of General Custer. I don't like that, but it all stems to what we have here. But anyway, going back, we don't have a militia, but in the 1771, when they needed a militia for protection, like our army, the government didn't give them weapons. They brought their own.
Right.
So it comes down to the place to when we deal with it, and I'm going to get to the end of this so you can see it. So the summary of it is this: the rights granted by the Second Amendment have an illustrious history connected with the protection of freedom and opposition of tyranny and slavery. In today's society, the Second Amendment has proven invaluable to citizens for protecting themselves against criminals. Disarming the people is a sure way to invigorate criminals, as they can get weapons regardless. Regarding this relation to the opposition of government, the Supreme Court said in 1951 in Dennis versus United States that Congress surely has the power to protect the government from armed rebellion, and that right to revolution is without force where government provides a system for peaceful, orderly change. That notwithstanding, should America ever find themselves faced with an incorrigible government of totalitarian oppression, a government that has abandoned the very principle that this nation was founded upon, and that reconstituted a slavery like that of the past, then the people have the natural, inalienable right to change the government as they see fit. And the spirit of this amendment clearly applies. When it says slavery, he wasn't just talking about black slavery. He was talking about when the government gains control, they make slaves of the people, and that's why we have the freedom to bear arms.
That's right.
And it's more
Amen.
than that also.
Yes.
You know, they say one of the reasons America's never invaded is because they say the problem is they come over here behind every rock is an American
Yes.
with a gun.
Especially in Tennessee.
Well,
Listen to
you don't
this.
need the rocks in Tennessee.
Yes, the right to bear arms can be regulated by public measures as to the kinds of weapons that are lawful and the circumstances in which the weapons can be kept. But no law or rule can undermine the right itself. Militias were only possible because of the armed population that had the right to have arms. As we have now seen, the right does not depend on the existence of militias. Now, talking about kind of weapons, I don't think that it would be approvable to take a tank down the street and fire it. That's not what he's talking about.
Right.
If you can pick it up and holster it, then yeah, you can do that. But I don't think you can do that with a
Absolutely.
tank.
So what, brother? Oh, but that's why we have, it's not the fact that I can have a gun, but what is the history behind it?
Right.
So I can protect my family. I can protect, and those of us who have come to the conclusion and we see to where the government becomes a tyrant, then we can form a militia ourselves to protect ourselves from the tyranny of a government that will enslave its population.
And given enough power, a government is going to do that.
Yes.
Well, if you look back at Germany and a lot of these places, One of the first things they did was they disarmed the people.
They disarmed the people, yes.
Listen to this. 4 states that recommended admitting amendments to the Constitution urged that one guaranteed the right of individuals to have arms. New Hampshire was the first to propose such amendment, and it said, Congress shall never disarm any citizen unless such as have been in actual rebellion. New York proposed that people have the right to keep and bear arms, and that a well-regulated militia consisting of the body of the people capable of bearing arms is the proper defense of a free state. Rhode Island and North Carolina recommended similar amendments to the Constitution. Can you imagine if they had had that First Amendment in there and said that if the government deems that the people are too out of control? I'm glad they took that out.
Yes.
Did you know about that, brother?
No, I didn't.
Well, you learned something, didn't you?
Absolutely.
Even this goofy jocularity priest. Did you learn something, Brother Jamie?
Yes, I did.
Oh.
I actually think it's kind of funny that New York brought that up, considering New York is one of the most strictest gun states. And
That's what I was thinking also.
I saw the puzzled look on your face, Brother Joe, there.
Listen to this. In the Virginia, it is kind of comical, brother. In the Virginia ratifying convention, Patrick Henry proclaimed that the people's only defense against an army controlled by Congress was a militia. The great object, he roared, is that every man be armed. Every man be armed.
Well, a militia that's not armed is called a parade.
Yeah. Everyone who is able may have a gun. At this same ratifying convention, George Mason reminded those attending that the British had previously sought to disarm the colonials in an attempt to enslave them. Who are the militia, he asked? They consist now of the whole people. Jefferson proposed that his state constitution should proclaim that no free man shall be disbarred the use of arms. If we don't have arms, then you can have, by the way, it's kind of like that, the movie Red Dawn.
Mm-hmm.
We need to learn by that. Who's to say that, and by the way, if it comes, we might be here in America battling the Chinese.
It's quite possible. The way things are going now, anyway.
Did you know that in Georgia, that the Black Panther, the new Black Panther, now have their consisting of 1,000 armed militia? I'm not making this up.
I don't doubt that.
You can check it out. In fact,
There's a video on Facebook at Stone Mountain,
yep.
armed Black Panthers.
Oh, let me.
accosting people.
What is? Oh, I've got it right here. What is the BLM?
Black Lives
No.
Matter.
It's something else. Let me get it. I gotta get it here. Here it is.
Bureau of Land Management.
Here it is right here. No, actually,
Almost as bad.
get this. The new Black, and by the way, I'm going to read this, and this is off their website. The new Black Power Management urges those of us that live in the USA not to be confused regarding the real intent of the Second Amendment. Read it yourself. Get this. The right to bear arms is not to protect hunters' rights. It is to protect yourself from the police. Protect yourself from tyranny. That's their motto.
From the police.
Yes, it is your constitutional responsibility to protect your hood from the tyrannical policings. They raised the stakes, and we didn't. See how the twisting of the Constitution, by the way, the little symbol in the bottom, look. You know what?
Africa.
By the way, this is something. Did you know what Muhammad Ali said? You know, he went to Africa. You knew that. He went to Africa.
I don't remember.
Yeah, he did. He went to Africa, and you can check this out. When he came back, they asked him, what do you think of Africa? This is what he said, Jamie. He said, thank God my granddaddy came on the boat. I'm not making this up. I mean, but I got on there and I said, I got to find out what do these, and it's dangerous. That's very dangerous.
I've had friends that have gone to Africa. And they come back and they say they were treated a lot worse over there than they've ever been treated over here.
Here's here's something else. What does it take? I'm going to just we're bringing the Constitution in this. If they want to come to your house, to go into your house, what is necessary?
A warrant.
A warrant. Do you know, according to the Constitution, what is necessary for a warrant?
There has to be evidence of.
Okay.
I'm pulling from my law enforcement
Okay.
background.
Okay.
There has to be evidence
Okay.
that there is a reason
Okay.
to pursue this.
Absolutely.
Whatever that it is, and it has to already be proven that something is wrong
Yes.
before that warrant can be issued.
Yes.
And a judge has to be convinced,
Mm-hmm.
because only a judge can issue that warrant. And those who are asking for the warrant, they have to present enough evidence to warrant this whatever that they're going to do, and it has to be connected to the reason for them going into somewhere or making an arrest or whatever that the warrant states.
It should
Now let's-
not be anything taken lightly.
Exactly. Now, here's more specifically and less words, but this is what the Constitution said.
You say
The-
I'm wordy?
Huh?
You say I'm wordy?
No. But here's
Not to your
interesting.
face.
Jamie, let's just imagine that you're the criminal.
That's easy.
And they've got to go into your house. This is what the Constitution says. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall be issued but upon probable cause, like you said, supported by an oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the person and things to be seized.
Right.
Everything has to be described. They can't just say, I got a warrant. All little fine details.
If there is evidence of, let's, using Jamie as our example
Yes.
that we've already established here.
I like that.
If they go,
I'm
if they
in the
go
line of
into,
fire apparently here.
if they have a warrant
Yes.
for a
Yes.
specific thing,
Yes.
they go into Jamie's home
Yes.
and they see evidence of another crime that has been
Yes.
committed. They
Yes.
cannot.
Absolutely.
They cannot
Absolutely.
pursue that.
You got that
They
right.
have to stay right within the limits of that warrant.
That's why we got the Constitution.
Absolutely.
Let me put this right here. Whatever happened to we've got a court system where somebody will come in, and it's 2 years before they're ever tried. Guess what the Constitution says?
Speedy trial.
Speedy trial.
All criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy. Amendment number 5 or 6, excuse me, right here. Come up here. There you go.
Okay, number 6, yes.
In all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy and public trial by the impartial jury of the Senate and district, state and
State,
district
yeah.
where the crime shall have been committed.
Mm-hmm.
Here's something else. If a president is involved in a crime, guess where he has to have the trial?
Washington, D.C.
Nope. Where the crime happened.
Okay.
Oh, yes. I didn't realize that. I said, what? And I was going through this, and it said to the fact, and this is, I think this is in the Constitution. I was reading this, where if he gets caught into a trial, then, and I've got this highlighted somewhere. Let's see. This is where I said, wait a minute, I had to scratch my head. But it said something to the effect. Okay, here it is.
Is it in the Constitution or the Bill of Rights?
This is in the Constitution.
under the executive
Article
branch.
Chapter 3. The trial of all crimes except in the case of impeachment shall be by jury, and such trial shall be held in the state where the said crimes shall have been committed. But when not committed within state, the trial shall be at such place or places as the Congress may by law have directed.
What
I said,
sec- is
what? That is in Article 3.
Okay. What section?
That would be in section, it starts in actually in section 1. No, section 2.
Section 2.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I was looking at section 1. I couldn't
And
find
if you
it.
go down to the last paragraph of section 2,
All right. The trial of all crimes,
mm-hmm.
except the cases of impeachment, shall be by jury, and such trial shall be
Yeah.
held in the state where the said crimes shall have been committed. How about that?
Isn't that interesting? Did you know that was in there?
No, I did not. I didn't
No.
realize that.
So Arkansas and Illinois.
Yep.
But look at that. But when not committed within any state,
Yeah.
the trial should be at such place or places as the Congress may, by law, have directed.
So I don't understand why Clinton wasn't tried in Arkansas.
Good question.
That's very interesting.
Well, the fun's going to be when Little St. James Island comes up.
Yep. It's I got looking at this, I said, wait a minute. If we don't know what the Constitution says, then we don't know where these infringements happen. How many knew about that? How many knew, by the way, and I'm going to go ahead and say this, I don't know if people understood this, but did you know and I'm going to go ahead and say it. Yes, brother. 4 minutes. Thank you, brother. I got 4 minutes time right here. All right, brother. I want to say this because most people don't know this. The president shall, and I'm just going to throw this out because I didn't know it was in there. This is the Constitution. This is in, let me do this real quick. This is in Article 2. It would be in section, let's see. I got to do this quickly. Section 1. It'd be in the last 2 paragraphs of section 1. The president shall, at stated times, this might get me in trouble, but receive for his services a compensation which shall neither be increased nor diminished during the period for which he shall have been elected, and he shall not receive within that period any other annulment. If you want to know what that is income from the United States or any of them. Basically, he can't receive income outside the office of president while he's a president. I never knew that was in there. Did you know that was in there?
Did you know that Thomas Jefferson was the supervisor of schools when he was
Yep.
president?
Yep.
He's moonlighting.
Yep.
Of course, he only had 2 books that were mandatory in his school district, which was the Bible
Yep.
and Isaac Watts.
Yes.
Hymnal.
Now, what's wrong with this statement? But President so-and-so did it. What's wrong with that?
That doesn't validate it.
That doesn't mean that it's right.
What does
Just
it violate? What does this violate?
The Constitution.
Yes, Article 2.
And any president, it could be this one, it could be any of them. And I'm just throwing this out. I'm not picking on anyone or any president. I'm not picking on Trump, Obama, Kennedy, or any of them.
That's my job, except
Yeah.
for the Trump part.
I'm just stating that when a president or any of them make a statement, I do solemnly swear or affirm I'll faithfully execute the office of president, and I will, to my best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. That's why we need to know these things.
Yeah, it is. Yes, sir. It is.
I'm not
Absolutely.
saying to be hateful or anything. I'm not saying this because I'm against anybody. I'm saying we need to know what's in this. And I would say this, folks. I've got how many minutes, brother?
I think we're about out of time.
Okay.
And
I would say this. Every American needs a copy of the Constitution, Declaration of Independence, and the Bill of Rights. Every
Amen.
person needs to have
Amen.
one.
You can download them for free on your computer.
Yes, but you can get these for about $1, pocket size, go in your pocket. You need to carry these with you beside your Bible.
Amen. All right, we're going to be closing here. We have a special closing. And after we say, after prayer here, Jamie is going to run
Yes,
a special closing for us.
yes.
And Jamie, when that is finished, then we will close the broadcast. We do invite your comments, your feedback on this program this evening. We'd love to hear from you, positive or negative. We'd like to hear from you.
Yes.
And if you enjoyed it, let us know.
Yes.
If you appreciated it, let us know as well. All right, Brother
Yes.
Bernie, lead us in a word of prayer, and then we'll let Jamie do the closing there.
Father, it has been good to be here to discuss these invaluable documents, and especially knowing that the Constitution, Declaration of Independence, and the Bill of Rights all have a Bible foundation. Father, may we be a people to know more about these documents than we've ever known. Not that we believe in it, but that we know why we believe in it. And Father, may we come to the place where we know what the Bible states. Father, we know we can't defend something if we don't know what it means and what it states. I thank you for these men, Father, and I thank you so much for Mayfield Drive Baptist Church. Thank you so much what she stands for. And may the days that we are coming to, may we be patriots for what's right. May we stand for what's right. And Father, may your word ring out through this land, and may freedom reign. Thank you so much for loving us and giving us the freedom in this country that is so wonderful. We ask in the name of Christ, our Lord and Savior. Amen.
These are the words that it would say. Ladies and gentlemen, I now present Old Glory. I am the flag of the United States of America. My name is Old Glory. I fly atop the world's tallest buildings, and I stand watch in America's halls of justice. I fly majestically across the great institutions of learning, and I stand guard with the greatest military power in the world. Look up and see me. I stand for peace, truth, honor, and justice. I stand for freedom. I am confident, I am brave, I am proud, and I am ready. When I am flown with my fellow banners, my head is held a little higher. My arms are a little truer. Except for my God, I bow to no one. I am recognized all over the world. I am sovereign. I am saluted. I am respected. I am honored. I am loved. And yet I am feared. I have fought in every battle of every war for more than 200 years. Some of these battles include Gettysburg, Shiloh, Appomattox, San Juan Hill, the trenches of France, the Aragon Forest, Anzio, Rome, the beaches of Normandy, Guam, Okinawa, Korea, Quezon, Saigon, Vietnam, Afghanistan, Iraq, Kuwait, Syria, and scores of other places long forgotten by all, except those that were there with me. I know because I was there. I led my special operations forces in the quiet of the night and at the tip of the spear. I saw them fight fearlessly throughout the globe every day of the year. I watched over them even during the casualties of Desert One, and they still loved me. I was on a small hill, Iwo Jima. I was dirty, battle-worn, tired, but my soldiers and my sailors, my airmen, my Coast Guardsmen, my Marines, they all cheered me, and I was so very proud. I was at Ground Zero in New York City on September the 11th as cowardly fanatics attacked America. I was raised from the ashes of once proud buildings by brave firefighters. These were heroes who risked their lives to save others, showing all that America, although bloodied, will never be beaten, because those who would destroy me cannot win. For I am the symbol of freedom, of one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I have been soiled, I've been burned, I've been torn, and I have been trampled on in the streets of my own country. And when it is done by those whom I have served with in battle, it hurts. But hear me today when I say I will overcome, because I am strong. I have slipped the surely bounds of earth, and from my vantage point on the moon, I stand watch over the uncharted new frontiers of space. And I have been that silent witness to all of America's finest hours. But my finest hour comes when my stripes are torn into strips to be used as bandages to cover the wounds of my fellow comrades on the field of battle. And also when I fly at half-mast to honor my soldiers and my sailors, my airmen, my Coast Guardsmen, my Marines. But most importantly, when I'm placed into the trembling arms of a grieving mother at the gravesite of her fallen son or her fallen daughter, I am so very proud. My name is Old Glory. Long may I wave, dear God. Long may I wave.